Hey, this is Jamey with Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in AuZtralia, a game by Martin Wallace. This game does something that I don't know if I've seen in a competitive game for quite some time. I'm even struggling to think of any example where this is the case. I'm sure it is, and Martin Wallace, I think himself, likes to play around with this idea. But in AuZtralia, it's a competitive game. You're competing against other players to accumulate victory points through a variety of ways, and hopefully have the most points at the end of the game. However, it is possible for no players to win. Actually, I'm thinking, now I say that, I think CO2 does this too. But in AuZtralia, which I'm talking about today, it is possible for no players to win, and instead, the Cthulhu, I forget what they're called. They're called the Old One. The Old Ones. It's possible for the Old Ones themselves to win the game. This is like the representative of the Old Ones here. So it's possible at the end of the game for the Old Ones to have more points than any individual player, and in that case, no players win, and the Old Ones and Cthulhu win the game. This is really cool. I am surprised by how interesting this made the game, and I think it works for a few reasons. Because one big danger that can happen with a game like this, if you have an AI system that all players have the choice to compete against, and that could win in a game like this, is that players who are lagging behind can choose to kind of just tank the game, and not necessarily even in a malicious way, but if they are not going to win, then they really don't have a big incentive to create opportunities for the other players to win. It's actually almost better for that player to end up not addressing the problem, in this case the Old Ones, so that the Old Ones win instead of another player. And what I think AuZtralia does so well there is that it really hides who's in the lead. It's really, really tough to tell during the game. You aren't counting points during the game. Instead of, there is a what looks like a point track on the board, but that's actually, during the game at least, that's a time track. You're using time as a resource in this game. So it's really hidden who's in the lead, and I think that really, really makes a big difference. Everyone kind of feels like they're in the game for most of the game. The other cool thing about this system is the AI is integrated really seamlessly into the game so that the Old Ones feel like a player in the game. As I mentioned, there's this time track, and on your turn in this game, the current player is the player whose time token is furthest back on this track. So it's always very clear whose turn it is. And you see this little purple space right here. At the beginning of the game, I believe that's the space, you put the Old Ones token right there. So the Old Ones don't take a turn for a while in the game. They've jumped forward in time, and they're just sitting there waiting for players to catch up with them. But once you catch up with them, they start taking turns just like the other players, and there's an AI system using cards in the game. And from then on, using those cards, they show you how far forward in terms of time the Old Ones will go. And so it's very clear. It feels like during the game, it feels like they are another player playing against you because their token is on the track along with the other players, opposed to using, say, like an event card system or some separate system that's not as integrated as a time track. I just thought this worked really, really well for showing us that there is another player that we're competing against, and they're using the same time system that we are, and it's very clear when their turn is throughout the game. And they are the Old Ones. So yeah, that's AuZtralia. I thought that was a really, really cool mechanism to have an AI system that you are actively competing against in a competitive game, and that players are consistently encouraged to consider that other entity as another player that they are competing against. Really, really well done. If you can think of any other games that do this, I mentioned CO2, which I haven't played, but I've heard that it has a semi-cooperative element like this. But really, it doesn't even feel cooperative in this game. It feels very competitive. But if you can think of any other games that do that integrate an AI into the competitive play so seamlessly, feel free to let me know. I know there are several Stonemaier games that where there is an automa system that's designed to be used for solo play primarily, but in like the new Euphoria expansion, there at 2 players you can integrate the AI into the game pretty seamlessly, and then it feels more like a 4-player game. I'm trying to think if we have any other games that do this. That's similar there's a variant in Between Two Cities that does that. Inside, there are unofficial, actually now there are official rules in The Rise of Fenris for integrating the AI into the system of the multiplayer system. Yeah, so feel free to let me know if you can think of any other examples. I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Or if you have a different favorite mechanism in Australia, I'd love to hear about that as well. Thanks.